Hey, everybody out there in Cryptid Land. Me and my buddy Dirty over there are going to be interviewing Ryan Paul Tremblay tonight. And I'm telling you, he's got some really, really cool stuff that you're definitely going to want to hear. He told me about cryptids I've never even heard of before tonight. But some of them that I do remember the names of are the skinwalker, the Wendigo, and my favorite, a hyena-faced dogman. So join us tonight on the
Cryptid Quest Podcast.
And oh my gosh, I cannot wait to delve into these stories. So Ryan, I've already kind of introduced you. If you want to say anything else, go ahead. Otherwise, stage is yours. Hello, everybody.
Yeah. So how is everybody doing? You guys doing great over
there? Come on, crowd. There we go.
How's Dirty doing over there?
Dirty.
I love the sound effects, man. That is great.
Yeah.
Terrific. So, yeah, I'm excited to talk to you tonight, man.
Perfect. Where would you like to start? Because I don't even know.
You're the host. Topic,
okay.
Man.
Yeah. Well, you talked about, you said you have some Wendigo stories, and you said, and I'm slipping my mind, you also Skinwalkers, yeah. To me, I mean, the Skinwalker, oh my gosh, they scared the hell out of me.
Rightfully so.
I'm thinking Skinwalkers. Let's start with that.
Okay, so I'll tell you how I got into that, man. You know, before I was doing shows, I used to watch a lot of stuff over on YouTube and different podcasts. And I would always hear these stories about skinwalkers, but for some reason, I was always sitting back going, well, this doesn't seem right. You know, it doesn't seem like they're telling the actual stories behind these things. So I got this wild hair across my butt, and I decided, you know, the only way I'm going to get the factual stuff about skinwalkers is if I go right to the Navajo people. Okay, so I wouldn't recommend that anybody in your audience does this because this was a foolish thing for me to do, but I went to a Navajo reservation with just me and my friends. So it was just two of us, okay? Mm-hmm. We walked right onto this reservation. I found the largest crowd of Navajo people I could. I stood right in the center of them, and very boldly, I'm like, okay, who's going to tell me about the skinwalkers? And man, oh gosh, if you look still, I think I should have been 6 feet under because they all turned to me at like the same time with this slow pivot, and they were all just staring holes in me. And I looked at my friend, and I was just like, we're going to die.
So I'm going to stop you for a half second. So isn't it in their culture they're not supposed to talk about it?
Exactly.
All right.
So, you know, I knew this going in that it was taboo, that, you know, it's not something they want to talk about. It's not something they like to talk about, but I still did this anyway. So we stood there for maybe like 5-10 minutes in total silence, man, with these people staring at us. And this little old lady, she was so sweet. She just walks up to me. She grabs me by my hand. And she was like, why do you want to know about the Yinaralushi? And I couldn't say anything at first, but I was like, well, I want to tell the truth. I don't want to tell, you know, the washed out stories that aren't true. I want to tell the actual lore, what they really are, where they come from, what they do. So her husband comes along. He's like, okay. He's like, you and your friend go inside our home. We'll sit with you and we'll talk to you. And so they talked to us for about 2 hours, and they told me a whole bunch of stuff that I did not know. I mean, my mind was blown, Patrick. When they were telling me all this stuff, I'm going, whoa. You know, I was so shocked by it. And so they told me, you have our permission to share what we've told you. And if you have any more questions, you come back to us and we'll tell you more that you need to know. So that was where my journey began.
All right. So, I mean, what kind of things did they tell you?
So what they told me was the Yinaralushi, okay? They're not just shapeshifters. They are a medicine man gone bad. All right. So they learned the blessing way, the witchery way is what they call it, where they can shapeshift. Shapeshifting was given to them by their creator, okay? And the medicine men of old, they would use this gift to get to the people that were sick farther away. It was a quicker means of travel, right? But somewhere along the way, that gift started getting corrupted, okay? So when the Spaniards and the European settlers came over, these medicine men were using the shapeshifting to spy on the people and to actually frighten them, to make them go insane by scaring them so much. And that's where the Yinaralushi started coming about. So they didn't want this to be used, okay? So the tribe was like, you know, what you're doing is wrong. Shapeshifting is a gift from our creator. you're using it the wrong way. And those who were already Yinaradushi were going, hey, you know what? We know how to do it. We're going to do it. So buzz off. So it became it's almost like a Jedi and Sith. This is a comparison I make all the time. It shows you how much of a geek I am. So the medicine men are the Jedi. Okay. They help people. They do good things for their people. They help with morale. They help with spirituality. The Yinaradushi are the Sith. They do everything with a very selfish and evil agenda. So there's something that they fear them greatly. It's not something they just want to talk about. It's not something you can bring up lightly. They are terrified of these things.
So how exactly are you pronouncing that? Because I don't know that I've heard the phrase.
Okay, a lot of people have a hard time with it. It's Naralushi.
Naralushi.
There you go. Yeah.
All right.
Very well done.
Very cool.
Yeah, what that means actually is it doesn't even mean skinwalker. In the Navajo tongue, it means by the means of it, on all fours he goes. And the reason why they call them this is because Yinaradushi will take animals like coyotes, bears, mountain lions, anything predatory, because in the Navajo culture, predatory animals are sacred. Okay, so they're important to the belief system. So to go against that, the Yinaradushi use these animals to shapeshift. They'll kill an animal, take its pelt, take the skin back to a cave, and through days, even weeks, even months of chanting and dark ceremonies, they imbue a magic into this pelt. So when they wear the pelt, they change into that animal.
Oh, wow.
Hence the term, by means of it, on all fours he goes.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
All right. It's straight up. It's terrifying. It's not something you would ever want to run into.
No.
So
when I mean cool, I don't mean like, yay, I want to go find one. I mean,
right?
So
I had to find me at one point. So
you what now?
I think I had one try to find me or almost find me at one point in time.
Oh my gosh! All right, so well, let's hear about that. But you're going on about the medicine lady. Carry on from there if you would.
So these Yinaradushi, what they do is they go against every moral fiber of the Navajo tribe. Okay, they're not there to help their brother and sisters. They're there to torment them. Anything that they can cause to go wrong, they'll make go wrong. And they do this through manipulation. They'll try to torment certain individuals and try to drive them off the land, or they'll even try to actually kill them. And they use what's known as corpse powder. And corpse powder, it's gathered from the Yinaradushi. They dig up the graves of the Navajo people, and they grind up the bones.
Oh, that's very sacrilegious.
It is.
Wow.
It really is. Everything that they do.
Corpse powder.
Corpse powder, yes. So it's essentially, the best way to think about it, ground up dead people.
Nice. No.
It's morbid, it's macabre, but what they most prefer, for some reason, is the bones of twin babies.
Of what?
So, twin babies, twin infants. So
really?
if there's someone in the tribe who had infants that died that were twins, then the Yinaradushi are going to be like, oh, that's perfect for my corpse powder. And they will sacrilege, they'll dig up the grave, they'll go ahead and grind up the baby's bodies and, create the corpse powder. And when they blow that on you, it can either cause mental insanity, it can cause you to feel feverish, or it can actually kill you. Depends on the spell that the Yinaradushi put on you.
Holy cow. Okay. I don't think I want to run into any of this. I'm kind of glad I'm not Navajo at the moment.
Well, me too, but they do stick mostly to the Navajo people. So when you see all these TikToks of people like in California or Washington saying they ran into a skinwalker, no, they didn't.
Yeah,
no, they did not.
Because I've heard that is a kind of like a local thing.
It
is
is
local to an area. Doesn't really happen much outside of that.
Well, there's these things called the Four Sacred Mountains, okay? And the Four Sacred Mountains are Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado, okay? So there's two in Arizona, there's one in New Mexico, and there's one in Colorado. These Four Sacred Mountains are viewed as a gift given by the creator of the Navajo people, okay? This is where the shaman would go to practice their good medicine. This is where the Navajo would go to have their ceremonies, like, birthday ceremonies, funeral ceremonies. So there's a lot of power imbued in these mountains, okay?
Yeah.
The Yinaradushi also use these mountains. So if they're far away from anything in those areas, like say they're in Washington, the Yinaradushi loses his or her power. They don't have the ability to possess animals anymore. They don't have the ability to play mind tricks on people anymore. So it's almost like it's an outlet. Like you think of the mountains as the electric socket.
Gotcha.
Okay. Inaralushi are the ones that you would plug into it. So if you take out the plug, they have no power.
Okay. So the skinwalkers, the ones that become the skinwalkers, are they still mortal, or
They are.
They are.
But they're very hard to stop. Okay. So it's said that if you want to know if somebody's a skinwalker, there's a couple of ways to go about it. You either have to trap them in their animal form. So it means like if you were to catch one that was a coyote and you threw it in a cage, it's going to turn back into its human form. Okay. That's not really a smart way to go about it.
Yeah.
But they also say that in human form, when you look at their eyes, they have like almost a mirrory sheen to their pupils. So it's like their eyes are glowing in the day. So if you look at them, you'd see a bright silver light kind of coming from their pupils. That's how you know you're not Alushi.
Got you.
And the third way to stop one, and this is the hard way, and I'm always telling people, there's a lot to a name. There's power to a name, okay? So with the Yinaralushi, if you ever want to stop a Yinaralushi, you'd have to learn his or her real name. The minute you know their true identity, you take away all their power. They are powerless against you. They can't harm you. They can't torture you. They can't even go near you because you took away everything that they were.
Really? Just by knowing their name? Now,
Yes.
Knowing it, or do you have to utter it?
You have to know it just by knowing that name.
It. Okay, so you don't actually have to speak it.
Right, but if you do, I mean, like if you were to walk up to it and say, "Hey, you're so and so," then yeah, that Yinaralushi is going to be like, "Oh," it's going to cower and walk away from you like, "I'm done. I can't do anything to this person. That's it."
So basically, when my producer Dirty tries to turn into a wolf, and I just say Dirty, and he'd be like, "Well, I can't do it in front of you because you know my name."
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it is the same as that, and that's not the only tradition that believes that, though. When you study things like demons and different ghosts, if you learn their name, those demons or ghosts are, powerless against you.
100%. Yeah, because in that part of like the when they do exorcisms, the priest has to get the demon's name to cast it out.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
And so and I'm not, trust me, I am not making fun by this, but when you said that, another fairy tale story that popped into my head was Rumpelstiltskin. Isn't that another?
That is perfect. And actually, every folklore, every fairy tale, they all have some kernel of truth in them. I know people don't like to think that fairy tales and folklore are true, but there is a kernel of truth within every story like that. And you got to pull on those strings to see if you can get those things to unwind so you can find the truth, and that's why I tell people, whenever you're reading folklore or you're reading a fairy tale, don't laugh at it too much because something happened. Something happened. People went through this, and this is why they wrote this story.
Yeah. It might be a little different from retelling or over the years, but there's something to the core of it.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we were always taught, about monsters, how if you knew a monster's name, the monster couldn't hurt you, and that came from somewhere, so I don't scoff at that. When the Navajo told me that, I was like, hey, I believe you 100%. You say, I'm taking as fact. So
man, oh man. So if I go to a gathering, then I got to make sure that they all have name tags.
Yes, pretty much. I mean, yeah.
I'm not making fun. Sometimes I like to make light, You know
what? That's the best way to educate people, is to have a sense of humor while doing it. You can't be all cut and dry and dead serious all the time because it's boring. It's absolutely boring. So if you can throw some humor in there, some comedy, do it, man.
Yeah. And trust me, I am not one to make fun of these things because, or any cryptid as far as I'm concerned, because I think they're real. I mean, I think a lot of them, if not all of them, are real. And it seems, I've got so much respect for the Native Americans because they seem to have embraced it and know more about it than I don't know that we ever will.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Patrick, when I started studying indigenous folklore, man, I fell in love with not just stories, I fell in love with the customs and the ways of the people and the people themselves. You know, I mean, I started feeling very attached to them. You know, and I do have some Native American blood in me too. So I kind of felt like I was going home again, you know, but with these people, I respect and revere them so much that when they tell me something, I take that as gospel. I'm like, you know, if they're telling me, that's the truth. Anything else anybody else tells me is wrong. Whatever they say is correct.
Wow. So do you, man, I think you might have said this, but I'm not sure. But have you ever, I think you said you thought you might have had an encounter with one?
Yeah, that spooked the living hell out of me, Patrick. I went on an investigation by myself. Okay. It's not something I normally do, but you know, with my friends, they panic too easily when they're talking about skinwalkers. And I was like, no, I want to go out on my own so I can look around. There's nobody, you know, hearing little birds or whatever and freaking out and running away. So I went out pretty far from home. You know, I got a ride out there from someone that I could trust, and he left me there. And I know he went home because he texted me when he got home. So it was like an hour later, he's at his house. So I'm walking around, you know, I'm going through these valleys and these hills, looking for evidence, looking for paintings or whatever. All of a sudden I hear an old woman's voice in the distance calling my name. So I hear this old woman going, Ryan, over here, Ryan. And I'm looking around, I'm like, who even knows I'm here? You know, because I mean, my friend was a guy. Doesn't sound like an old woman. So why am I hearing an old woman's voice? You know, so I'm looking around, I'm not seeing anything. Okay. And where I was at, it was actually like a plane. So I could see straight ahead. I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing a body move, but I'm still hearing that voice going, Ryan, I'm over here, Ryan. And I go down this hill and I see like in the distance, there's this shadowy figure. And it stops. It doesn't move, but I can tell it's staring right at me. Right. And as I'm kind of looking at it, I'm tilting my head to get a better view. I see these two little eyes start to glow. And that's when I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm done because this thing knows my name. Its eyes are glowing. I'm out here by myself. I texted my friend. I was like, get here pronto. 911. And so, yeah, he got me home and I was like, oh my God, dude. No.
So what color was the eye glow from this one?
They were white. It was
white.
Pure white. Two white dots.
Kind of like stars or something.
Yeah. And they were so bright though. Like this wasn't a human. Okay. Because when I'm looking at a human during the day, your eyes aren't going to glow.
No,
okay. Your eyes aren't going to shine. So when I'm seeing this eye shine in a day, I'm going, oh, okay, this isn't normal. And given what I'm looking for, I think maybe one found me. So I am out of here.
Yeah. I think I'd have jetted too. So
yeah, I got home. I ran home. I ran upstairs and I ran to my neighbor because he's a Navajo. And I told him what I saw. He didn't even say a word, Patrick. He's like, just started doing a blessing right then and there. And when he was done, he's like, Ryan, you saw Yinaradushi.
So did you guys discuss on maybe why? Was it because you were looking for it that you saw it?
Yep.
Really?
That's what he said. I asked him, I'm like, you know, I wasn't doing anything offensive. You know, I wasn't kicking around pottery. I wasn't trying to steal anything. I wasn't breaking anything. And he's like, no, you don't need to, Ryan. You were giving it credit. You were talking about it. So it knew you were talking about it. So it came to see you. And I was like, okay, I'm not going out alone ever again. Ever again.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, that's terrifying, dude. I was like, oh my God, man.
So was that your only in-person encounter with one?
With a skinwalker so far? Somebody knock on wood because I don't have wood anywhere. So somebody knock on that because I
just knocked on some for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't want a close encounter. You know, and I think people think I'm trying to prove they are real. When I do this research, what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to spread awareness so that people know what they're dealing with. Okay. So my mission isn't to go out and find a Yinaradushi and march it up on stage and present it to everybody. That's not what I want to do. I just want to bring a respect for the Navajo culture, for their beliefs, for their folklore, and have people be more cautious when they talk about these things.
And you're providing education too, because, you know, I mean, some of the things you just told me, and I delve into a lot of different, you know, but I hear a lot too, and some of the things you told me I've not heard before. So
it's hard to come by. It's hard information to come by. It's not something you can find by looking on Google or listening to YouTube. You know, you got to go and actually talk to the actual people to find out.
Yeah, well, and like you said and I said earlier, these people don't readily just talk about it. Not like they're doing a podcast or doing a web page or a Facebook page where, hey, we're going to talk about skinwalkers today. They're like,
Exactly. So that's why, like, when I see people going out, so like, they have a video hunting for the skinwalker, I always just kind of shake my head going, you shouldn't be doing this.
wow.
Because what are you going to do if you're going hunting for a skinwalker and you find one?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are you going to just like run away from it? You went looking for it. You got its attention. So now that you have its attention, what are you going to do? So educate yourselves.
Man, oh man. So you probably saw this video and I've seen it on YouTube, where this guy's walking down a path. It's dark, and this deer like comes running at him, goes into like the brush, and then comes running back out the other side. And when it does, its eyes are glowing like you said, and its head is like almost twisted all the way around, and it's looking at him. Have you seen that one? Do you believe that video?
I think it could be, though. I really think it could be, because, they will use a deer, because if you're trying to sneak past somebody, what better to use than a deer? A deer is harmless. Yeah. Everybody thinks it's cute. It's, it's not going to hurt you in any way. So if you want to spy on somebody, take the form of a deer.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I'd be freaked out by, especially that one I think it was a doe. It didn't have any horns on it unless it was, out of season. But yeah, I don't think that would have scared me until I saw its head twist almost all the way around.
Yeah, see, at that point, that's when you need to go, okay, that's not normal, and I'm getting away from this deer. I'll see you later. Adios.
I think I'd have to check out. So, you got anything more you want to add about skinwalkers, or do we want to move on to the next?
I have a friend of mine who had a skinwalker encounter, too.
Really?
And
Let's hear it.
It's kind of like poetic justice in a way, though, because he used to go with us on my investigations, and he would always joke about it. Yeah. Right. And my Navajo friend would tell him, don't joke about this because you're disrespecting my culture, but you're also drawing negative attention from them to you. And he always joked about it. He's like, oh, I got guns. I can deal with one. I'm not afraid. So he went out to his cabin here in Arizona, and it's pretty far up in the mountains. And he was all by himself. And he actually called me the night that he left, because he left during the morning. Went up to his cabin. That evening, he was calling me frantic because what happened, he went out to go fishing. He was cooking the fish over his fireplace. He started hearing somebody knocking on the side of his cabin. So he went out to go see, who's out here with me? I'm by myself. And he ran around his entire cabin, couldn't find anybody. No footprints, nothing. Went back inside. He heard a knocking again. So he went back outside to look. Nothing there again. So at this point, he gets a little nervous. He's loading his guns, locks his doors. Hears knocking on his windows this time, and it's like really loud rapping, like jish, 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 jish. So he runs out to the window where there was rapping. Nobody's there. As he's looking out one window, there's knocking on his back window. And suddenly someone started calling his name. So he hears this woman calling his name at first. So he goes outside. Foolishly, he goes outside to see who it is, right? Woman's voice stops, turns into a man's voice. And this man's voice is telling him, go away. Go away, go away. And he thought, somebody's messing with me. Ryan's out here or whatever. So he called me up. He's like, hey, are you out here? I'm like, no, man, I'm at my house. Why would I be outside your cabin, bro? So he's talking to me, and I hear the knocking as he's talking to me. And I hear whatever it is calling his name. So I told him, dude, you need to gather up and just leave right now, because that's not right. There's something very odd about this. As I'm talking to him, you hear something, a really loud thud, and there's something running up on his rooftop. And I'm just like, yo, that's a high cabin, dude. Something just jumped onto your roof, and it sounded bipedal. So you know how when something was running with 2 feet here, doop, doop, doop,
yep,
it sounded like that. And so he runs out, and he's, aiming his gun up there. There's nothing on his roof. He doesn't see anything. But then he's walking out near his driveway, and it had just kind of rained earlier that morning. He looks down, there's some coyote prints, right? But as it gets closer to the driveway, suddenly it turns into human footprints. And that's when I told him, I'm like, bro, you got to go. You got to go home now. You drew some negative attention from this thing. Get the hell out of there. So he did. He went home, and now he will not even go out with me. When I go on my investigations, he's like, I want nothing to do with it, Ryan. I am still terrified of what I saw.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. That's sending chills up my back.
Yeah, he's a big dude. He doesn't scare easy at all. He's a very strapping dude. He's well built. And it's like, for him to be that scared, he saw some stuff he probably shouldn't have seen.
Woo. So there's another podcast that I really enjoy. the confessionals
Yeah.
had a brain fart for a minute. The
Tony Merkel?
confessionals and yeah, Tony Merkel and
Mhm.
and he did a documentary or a short movie or whatever it was,
Mhm.
Skinwalker Ranch. Um,
Right.
and I remember I haven't seen it yet. I need to watch it because it really sounds interesting. But when you were talking about the footprints changing.
Yeah.
He said, and I remember when he talked about it on his show, he said they saw the same thing, but it was horse, and then it went from horse to human,
Right.
which and then because when you said coyote, I was just like, so I guess they can change into anything. Is
There's
it
limitations. I mean, they have to use certain animals because
okay?
certain ones are taboo that they just can't touch. But yeah, I mean, there's a wide range of what they can transform into: birds, owls, bears, mountain lions, coyotes, squirrels. Anything that they can get their hands on. Really, it's like fair game.
Oh wow.
Mm.
So, crap. I don't know. That just that kind of stuff just sends my mind into spirals because it's
Mine too.
it's it's hard to think about. There's things out there like that, or
Yeah.
people or creatures. So, what would you call it? A person or a creature or
I call it a little bit of both. I mean, it's a person most of the time, unless they shapeshift. Then it's a creature, so it's a little bit of both.
so?
But I
It
don't think I consider it a cryptid, though. I think with a skinwalker, it's more supernatural.
okay, yeah, I know. And when I say cryptid, man, I lump everything into it, even though it's not really in it. Just because
Right,
it makes it
right.
easier. Yeah.
Sure.
Um, so so we've got the skinwalkers.
Hmm.
So now I want to know about the Wendigo.
Okay. So the Wendigo, this is something I've been working on for years, and I do mean years. I was
Okay.
actually inspired by Chad Lewis. He wrote a really excellent Wendigo book, and that right there, I was like, I have to learn more about this. I want to write my own book. So I started researching this thing. And what it is, the Wendigo, it's not a cryptid like everybody likes to paint it as. Okay. So it's not going to be a four-legged creature that has fur with a deer head on it with antlers and a tail. That's not what the Wendigo is. According to the Cree, the Ojibwe, the Algonquins, the Wendigo is a spirit. Okay, it's an entity, and it usually comes around during the cold of winter because that's when starvation prevails most. That's when people are really starting to get terrified of the long cold winter. So along comes the Wendigo, and it's waiting for a person to break certain cultural taboos. Now, the most popular one is cannibalism. Obviously, feasting on the flesh of another human is considered very bad, and it'll bring on the Wendigo. But one can become a Wendigo through a curse. So if you were to wrong a shaman, this shaman could curse you to be hit with the Wendigo. You could attach a Wendigo to you that would slowly manipulate your mind and then would eventually start to possess you. And when you become the Wendigo, you become this monster that's constantly hungry. Doesn't matter how much you eat, you're still wanting more, more, more. And they become these like emaciated, pale creatures that are bald, and their lips are actually gone because they've actually chewed on their own lips. That's how
Oh
hungry
my
they are.
gosh. So
Even their
what do
fingers,
they eat? Just anything?
human flesh. They
Just
want human flesh.
okay.
So
Okay.
when you see like zombie movies, like the best example of a Wendigo zombie would be Pet Cemetery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It's
because
a
I
spooky
don't know if you
movie.
read the book. Did you read the book of
I
Pet
didn't read the
Cemetery?
book. I've seen the movie, both movies, but
Okay.
I didn't read the
So
book.
in the movies, they excluded the Wendigo for the most part. Like in the
Yeah.
newest one, they mention the Wendigo and you hear the Wendigo. But in the book, it was much more prevalent. There's a part when Lewis Creed, the dad, is going to bury Gage. He
Hmm.
runs into the Wendigo. He actually runs into the physical Wendigo. So when he's going to cross that barrier, he looks up and there's a Wendigo staring down at him. So that's how Stephen King was inspired, was because a Wendigo turns you into basically a flesh-eating zombie, more or less. Because all you want is to eat humans. You want more humans, more humans, more humans. And the more you eat, the hungrier you get, but you also grow. So you grow to almost gigantic proportions.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
don't like it. I mean, I like it, but I don't, man, oh man, I'm not going to leave my house for a month now. So,
My job was well done.
yeah. So the Wendigo, and I know we talked about Skinwalker, they have their area. Is it the same situation with Wendigos or?
Well, my personal theory on that is it has to be within a certain range because the Wendigo started in Canada. Okay.
Okay.
So the Canadian territories is where the Wendigo was most prevalent, where it was most feared. But there have been sightings down to Montana. I don't quite understand that because we don't get winters as bad as Canada does.
Yeah.
Because Canada has those long, harsh winters where, people freeze to death and, game is very low. So you're not finding a lot of prey to eat. So I don't know. I think it's just Canadian territories. Okay. That's where I think the Wendigo is most going to exist. But that's where most of the stories of the Wendigo come out, too.
Well, makes me glad I'm American and not Canadian at the moment.
I'm partly Canadian, so I'm like, oh boy. Oh, I thought you know.
So, and the Wendigo, you say, do they always have like do they look like let's say I turn into a Wendigo.
Right.
Am I going to look like me and slowly turn into something else? Or am I going to keep looking like me and just look like I'm disheveled?
No, what's going to happen to you is first your mind's going to go. Okay. So you're going to start thinking thoughts that you shouldn't think. Like you're going to start looking at people and thinking, oh, they look mighty tasty. And then as time goes on, you're not going to be able to help yourself. You're going to start attacking people violently. And the more that you do so, and if you ever partake of human flesh, that's when your physical body starts to change. So you're going to lose your hair, you're going to lose all your skin color, and you're going to look like you're starving. Like you're going to lose all the weight that you have on you, and you're going to be skeletal for the most part. Oof. And once that happens, you're no longer you. You're not a human anymore. You're a Wendigo. So there's not going to be any reasoning with you. There's not going to be any bargaining. I can't tell you to stop, and you're going to listen.
Yeah.
You're going to become this entity, this spirit. You're going to be a physical representation of that spirit.
So basically, even though I'm still human right now, I wouldn't eat dirty if I was a zombie because his name's Dirty. But if I was a Wendigo, I wouldn't think about that. I'd just say, I'm eating your feet.
You would just attack him and that'd be it. We'd never hear from him again and be like, oh, where'd he go?
Sorry.
Man, you did dirty.
Dirt, yeah. Eating dirty.
So the best well-known story, though, of the Wendigo is that of Swift Runner. What was that? Yeah, there's a story known of Swift Runner. It was a Cree fur trader and hunter.
Okay.
And this happened in the winter of 1878. Okay. So this Cree hunter named Swift Runner, he took his family along this hunting trail, which he had traveled many, many times. It was his usual hunting route, so he knew it like the back of his hand. Okay. Took him to the hunting cabin. And he came back about 3 weeks later, but the people at Fort Saskatchewan, they noticed his family was nowhere around. His wife and his kids, nobody was seeing him. And he was sitting in the bar, and he was talking to the patrons of the bar, saying how he was starving, that the family was going hungry, and there was all these problems going on, but he would not say what happened to his family. But the magistrates, the royal police up there, they noticed, well, he said he was starving. He doesn't look any thinner, though. He looks like he gained weight. So where's this starvation story coming from? Eventually, as he's talking, he started going into details of how he ate his wife, he ate his sons, and so they brought him back to that hunting cabin. And when they brought him to the hunting cabin, they found evidence that he had indeed murdered and cannibalized his family. There was smears of fat all along the cabin walls. There was blood everywhere. Very nonchalantly, he walked right over to this pile of skeletons, and he would take two fingers. He would slide it through the eye sockets of the skeleton, and he'd hold it up and waggle it. He'd be like, "This was my wife," and he would show how he cracked her skull to eat her brains. He would just throw her skull to the side, and he would pick up another one and be like, "And this was my son." So they arrested him, and he would tell these French Jesuits, "This is how I killed my son. This is how I killed my wife. The Wendigo made me do it. I am Wendigo." So they had a priest try to talk to him, and he maintained the story, "I am Wendigo." What happened is there was a security guard that used to come and check on Swift Runner, okay? And he was a stout little fellow. He was, short, very plump. every time he came into Swift Runner's cell, Swift Runner would hold up 3 fingers and be like, "You have that much fat on your bones." So it looked like he was planning on eating the security. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and so what happened though is they found out through his father-in-law that they already had food. Swift Runner and his wife had previously killed 2 rabbits to take with them on this hunting trip. So he had food to eat. So there was no need for him to murder him. But yet he did, and he maintained till the day that he was hung in the gallows that he was a Wendigo.
Oh, wow. 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 I don't know that I've heard that tale before.
It's a dark story, man. It's a very brutal story.
Yeah. So I'm assuming since you're still alive, you've not had a Wendigo encounter?
No, thank goodness. I do not want to see a Wendigo, not even from a distance. I'll talk about it. I'll tell people about it on shows, but I don't ever want to see one. That's one I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah. I think I'd be good too. So, is there any other cool stuff we need to know about the Wendigo?
So yeah, I mean, it's interesting how they say you kill a Wendigo. Okay, when someone's becoming a Wendigo, there's a very simple method that they use. They use heated beef tallow. That's just heated beef fat.
Heated beef fat?
Yeah,
okay.
And they'll to someone that might be becoming a Wendigo because they believe that the heated beef fat will thaw the ice around the heart of someone becoming a Wendigo, thus killing the Wendigo curse.
So do they believe that ice forms around their heart, and this is what turns them into a Wendigo?
Yes.
And so is that supposed to cure them of it, and they're going to live?
Yes. But if the transformation goes too far along, then the only way out of it is just basically death.
Oh, wow.
And the way they do that is they'll use a silver dagger and remove the heart, and then that heart will be cut into pieces, burned down, and kept in a silver box and buried in hallowed ground so the heart can't reform.
Did they do any of that to the guy you told us about?
We don't know. That's the interesting thing about Swift Runner is after he was hung, there's a lot of miscommunication as to what happened to his body. Some people say he was buried at Fort Saskatchewan. Some stories say that his people took his body, and other stories say that his people not only took the body, but they took it and they quartered it and buried different parts across Canada.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
now I would believe that. I would believe that because if he believed he was Wendigo, his people would believe that he was Wendigo as well. So I could see them, cutting the body into different parts and burying all these different parts in different locations.
So, did the Wendigo, did it begin with him, or was it already around before? Did the people around that they already knew about it, but he was just the first one to come out and say it?
It was around before. Now, this is only the first story we have technically because it was recorded by French Jesuits. Gotcha. So had they not been there at Fort Saskatchewan, we wouldn't really know the story of it, but there's plenty of other people that have fell prey to the Wendigo before Swift Runner.
Okay.
So,
okay. All right.
It was such a big thing that Jack Fiddler, he was actually an elder and a chief up in Canada. He was known as the Wendigo killer because he would go from province to province to stop people that were becoming Wendigo.
Holy cow.
By performing exorcisms of sorts on them.
Man, I don't think I'd want that job.
I wouldn't either, but I mean, Jack Fiddler and his sons carried on.
Wow.
They did it. Unfortunately, white man's law prevailed. So Jack Fiddler and his sons were executed as murderers. But,
that sucks.
It does, because I mean, that's their spiritual belief. And, if they were doing this thing, then maybe there really was something to the whole Wendigo transformation.
Man, might be.
Yeah, I don't think it really had the right to say, "Oh no, it's just it's crazy Indians saying it." Yeah, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah. I mean, who are we to say what the entire world is and what it's made of?
Yep.
That's the problem with. I'm sorry, even though I'm white, that's the problem with the white man. We think really, we know everything and we don't.
What's really interesting is the word Wendigo itself came from an Algonquin word, Wetigo. Wetigo means for oneself. So when they said Wetigo, they meant someone who was very narcissistic, someone who is very selfish, very greedy. But somewhere along the lines, they encountered this spiritual entity and they called it the Wendigo.
Huh. That's so cool. So do you have any like other cryptid encounters, or is there any cryptid that really like bam? I mean, besides these two, obviously these two, but
right. Well, I did run into a dog man here in Arizona. Though, you know what? I'm reluctant to say dog man because it was a hyena kind of creature, and I know hyenas are not canines. So I don't know if I can rightfully say it was a dog man, but I did see a bipedal hyena creature right here in Arizona. So I saw something. I don't know what to call it.
I've heard, and I listened to a lot of shows, a lot of encounters, and I've heard about people talking about a hyena type.
Right.
Can you tell us about it?
Yeah. So what happened is my friend and his wife, they lived in the same town that I did. They owned a house and they were going away on vacation. So they asked me, hey, can you house sit while we're away? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'll be that good friend. Yeah. So what I did, I would go for morning checkups, afternoon checkups, and nighttime checkups, right? Around midnight would be my last time going. So on this particular night, it was about midnight, maybe 12:30. I'm walking up his driveway and I noticed the coyotes here. They're sounding really nervous. On both sides, I can hear this nervous chatter from the coyotes. Now, I thought maybe, they're hunting game or maybe, meeting season, whatever. Didn't really pay much mind to it. So I'm walking towards the back of his house and all of a sudden I get this hit with this really disgusting smell. I mean, the only way I can describe this was feces, urine, body odor, and rotted meat all wrapped up into one nasty little ball. I mean, that's how bad it stunk. It was making my eyes water because it stunk so bad. So I thought maybe, it was a dead animal somewhere because how rotting carcasses smell.
Yeah.
As I'm getting into his back gate, though, he's got this big backyard that kind of ends where the hill starts up. So his yard is here. Then there's a hill that goes right up. Right. So I see movement in the shadows where the trees are. You know how when you're looking at the shadows and somebody's in there, you can kind of see the mass and you can see him moving around.
Yeah.
So I saw something. I thought maybe it was a homeless guy because a lot of homeless people like to sneak into the yards over there. So what I do is I puff up, trying to be that little puffer fish because I'm only 5'10".
Yeah.
So I try to make myself look really big and I'm like, hey, and it's not moving. Right. So I'm like, okay, that worked. So, I'm moving forward again. And then, it starts moving again. So I'm puffing up. Rah, hey, again. This time I get a response. So it's really, really deep growl. I mean, this growl went through my chest. I could feel it rattling my ribs. So here I am. I'm walking to his backyard. I get right into his backyard at this point, and I see movement still. And at that point, the security lights in his backyard clicked on, right? I was expecting to see a human being. What I saw was not a human being. It was anything but. It was this hyena-like thing. And it's just standing there staring at me. It's like kind of shaking side to side a little bit. And it sees me. I can tell it sees me. It's looking right at me. So I'm like, oh, crap. I know better. Don't look it straight in the eyes because if it's a predatory animal, staring it in the eyes is a challenge. So I'm just kind of trying to, divert my gaze a little bit while keeping it in my view. And this thing charges forward. Okay. Oh. And, I didn't want to move. I thought if I move, I'm dead. Okay. If I try to run, it's already running at me. It's going to pounce on me. Stops on a dime. I mean, Patrick, this thing just it was running fast. And just.
So was it on all fours when it ran or did it drop to all fours?
Yeah, it was on all fours. And you can see its knuckles, knuckle running.
Yeah. Okay.
It stops and it's looking at me again, but its head is going side to side and its ears are going up and down. And I'm standing still. I'm not going to move. I don't want to challenge this thing. I'm like, no, if I move, one wrong move, I'm dead. So I'm staring at this thing. It's staring at me. All of a sudden, it starts to stand up. I hear this loud pop, and it just reaches up and it's holding onto this branch, and it's just staring at me for a minute. And I don't know how much time passed, but eventually it lets the branch real slowly, and it starts to turn away. And as it's walking away, I can hear the thump, thump, thump of its footsteps. And once it's gone, man, I'm like, I'm out. I can see it's, going up the hill. And I'm like, I'm out, man. I ran up my friend's stairs, dude. Like my life was in danger, man. Like my blood was on fire. I ran in his house. I'm locking his doors. I'm bolting his windows. I'm looking through his kitchen drawers, grabbing all the knives that I can.
Geez.
I called my friend up. I'm like, yo, what the hell, dude? You wanted me to check on your house and you didn't tell me there was a hyena in your backyard? And my friend,
I'm sorry.
It took a moment for him. He's like, wait, a hyena? Ryan, what the hell are you talking about? There's no hyenas in Arizona.
Why you been smoking?
Right. So I'm like, well, maybe there's no hyenas in Arizona, but I just saw one, and the damn thing stood up on 2 legs. So he came home. The next day, he came home, and sure enough, we went to the backyard. The branch that it was holding on to was broken.
Oh, my
You could see the scuff marks where it had stopped. When it stopped, like on a dime when it was charging, you could see the scuff marks. You could see the lines in the sand.
So could you tell about how tall it was? Did you have any kind of guesstimate?
I'm only 5'10" and a half, but judging from what I could measure, it was about 6 feet, 6.5 feet.
Okay. That sounds actually pretty common for dogmen. They generally don't end up very tall.
What gets me though, Patrick, is I always hear these stories of, like, you know, the dogmen that are built like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Mine wasn't like that. Mine was more like, I'd say, a basketball player. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Like slender, and like
got muscle definition. Yeah, it's got a muscle definition, but it's not like raw.
Yeah.
So it was well fed, but not super muscular.
Okay. Well, and honestly, I've been getting a lot of dogman stories, but a lot of people are describing like you. I mean, I listen to a lot of stories too, and I think the type that you're talking about, besides the hyena look, which I've heard, but body type sounds like right down the chute of what the norm is. You said that when it was running at you, you said it was doing a knuckle run. Could you could you tell what it's? Did it have paws? Did it have hands? Something in between? Or could you really tell?
Had raccoon-like hands, if that makes any sense. Like when you look at a raccoon's hands, how the fingers go. It was like that. You know, it had the long fingers like you do.
Yeah.
We could see where the claws were coming up.
Yeah.
And just like it looked like my hand, but you know, it just had the claws at the end.
Yeah. Kind of like Rocket from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I know like that. But I mean, what was weird for me though is the way it was tilting its head. You know, that's what dogs do when they're curious.
Yeah. When you said that, and then it said it was cocking its ears. You know, my cat does it too, but.
Well, I mean, that's when an animal's curious. That's how you know they're paying attention, because the ears are going up.
Yeah.
You know, I always wondered, what was it about me that made it curious? I mean, I'm just a human. What was it curious about me for? You know?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, you're gonna make me afraid to go outside for a week.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I've had scary stuff happen in the woods. I always end up back in them.
It gets more interesting though, because I thought I was crazy, man. I thought I was nuts. I was like, I did not see a hyena. There's no way I saw a hyena. But I continued my dogman research anyway. You know, so I would go out on a daily basis almost, you know, looking around the different areas here, seeing if I could find any clues. Well, one day I was walking down a riverbed, okay? And it's like, it kind of snakes around, so it's got all these twists and turns. Well, I'm walking and I noticed to my left, there was like a dugout area, a large dugout area. And right in the middle of that seemed like it was a pedestal made of mud and sand. And on top of this pedestal was a silver tray with all these different kind of fruits on there. There was kiwis, pineapples, strawberries, cherries. And I'm just, I'm looking around. I'm like, there's no house here for like a mile or so. We're way, way out. Who's leaving fruit out here? You're not feeding the javelina. They can't reach it. So I left. I came back the following day, and this platter was refreshed. They added new fruit to it. So whatever was there the day before, it was either eaten or they decided, let's freshen it up. So what I did is I left a note. I asked the people, to whoever is feeding the animals here, what are you feeding and why are you feeding them? So I left a note under the platter, right? About 3 days later, I went back. And I went right to that spot with my mission to see if somebody responded to the note. So I lift up the tray, my note's gone, and there's a drawing where someone put, "We're feeding these. There's more than one. Be careful." And they drew like a hyena standing up on its 2 legs.
No doubt.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not crazy. Somebody else in this town is seeing the same thing that I did. So I knew that was like my verification right there. Like, okay, Ryan, you're not nuts. You did see what you thought you saw. Somebody else is not only seeing them, they're feeding them, man, and they know there's more than one.
Oh, I don't think I'd want to feed them.
Well, maybe that's why they weren't hurting people in my area, because you hear all these stories of dogman attacking people and, dogman chasing people out of the the areas or whatever. Maybe that's why I wasn't getting chased out, because these people had kind of tamed them a little bit, you know.
I guess that's good.
Yeah.
I don't see. I don't, and maybe they know more than I do, or maybe they, are more in touch with God and they're not worried about it. But, man, oh man, it's just like, I don't know that I would be putting out food, especially anywhere near my house. I'd be like, go find it somewhere else. I'd maybe take a tray over to Dirty's house and put it in his backyard.
That's messed up.
I know.
Yeah, I don't agree with that habituation. I don't think habituation of Bigfoot or Dogman can really end well. Because I've seen what happens with bears. Like, you can feed the bears and they'll be good to you as long as you're feeding them. But the minute you forget that you have to feed them, oh boy, they're breaking into your house.
That's what I would worry about. What happens if I get sick, or they get sick and they can't put a tray out? They'll, gonna come to your house and be like, hey, where's my grapes?
Right. Like, so you forgot our food, so you're becoming, hey, hope you don't mind.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I mean, that was the verification I needed, though. That was, the solidification. I did see something, that I wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
That I was just picturing something. It wasn't my imagination running away, because these people had seen it too.
Yeah.
And they had drawn a picture of it. So I'm like, no, they did see something 100%. So I did too.
Yeah. Well, no, I believe you did. I believe you did 100%. It's I don't know. It makes you feel so much better. Even because you're right. When something like that happens, it doesn't matter what cryptid, creature, whatever it is. When something like that happens, you do feel kind of crazy for a little bit.
Sure do. You sure do.
But then there comes a time to where you're like, wait a minute, I'm not the only one. And then it almost makes you feel like I'm human again,
Yeah. It's almost like vindication, because you're trying to convince yourself, oh, I saw something, or did I? Did I really see it? My nuts? But then when somebody else steps forward and says, oh no, I saw the same thing, you're like, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good. Yeah. And then you get to a point in your life to where you're like, well, you know what? I know I'm not crazy, and I don't care who thinks I'm crazy. I'm going to talk about it. So
that's how I am. That's how I am now. I'll talk about it. Say, oh, you're nuts. I'm like, no, I'm not. You're crazy for not believing.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. That's how I feel now. I'm like, you don't believe Bigfoot? You're stupid.
Yep. I even had, police officers in that town. They would tell me, oh, I did see something like this. So, it was really helping. My research was actually helping me feel better about what I had thought I seen. So as I'm talking to these police officers and, different people from around the town, they were saying, yeah, I saw something similar. I'm sitting there going, great, I'm not alone. All right, this is great. I'm not all by myself. I didn't imagine this. It wasn't just a flight of fancy. I really did see it. So
yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, verification is something that'll make your soul feel a little lighter.
Yeah, so, you feel like you're not nuts anymore. You're like, I can relax. I'm not crazy.
Yeah. So are there any other like cool stories you want to tell before we start wrapping her up, or you got something? Anything else?
I'm still, I'm deep in the indigenous folklore. In fact, I'll be doing a show on the Raven Mocker pretty soon. So that seems to be something that a lot of people are taking an interest in.
The Raven Locker?
Raven Mocker.
Oh, it's Raven Mocker. Okay, I'm sorry.
In Cherokee tongue, it's the Karanu Akarinsky. Okay. And what that means is it's the heart eater, the death bringer. And it's part of the Sunayi Adahi. It's part of the night goers. Okay. And the night goers, it's a pantheon of different spirits that they're not good. None of them are good, but the worst one is the Raven Mocker. So when somebody in the Cherokee tribe falls ill or when they're dying, it's when the Raven Mocker comes about, okay? And the Raven Mocker will actually stalk the sick and the dying, and it will abuse them spiritually, physically, and emotionally until the point where it can actually pierce their chests without breaking the skin to eat their heart so it can prolong its own life.
Then what happens to the person?
They die.
Oh, that's not good.
But the Raven Mocker gets to go on. In fact, however many years you had left, or, however.
Yeah, it's added onto them?
It's added onto the Raven Mocker, yeah.
Holy cow, I've never even heard of that before.
It's a scary one too.
Blown.
It's not as
new
scary as
one.
Skinwalker.
Yeah.
It's not as scary as Skinwalkers or Wendigo, but only certain medicine men can see the Raven Mocker.
Yeah.
So these medicine men have to be gifted with a gift of sight. And if they can see the Raven Mocker, they can actually destroy the Raven Mocker by looking at it. Once these medicine men lay their eyes upon the Raven Mocker, it'll die from being seen. It has 7 days to live after that.
If they know it is one.
Yes.
Okay.
And most times they do.
Like knowing the name again.
See, we went full circle with this one. Full circle, bro.
Full circle. I love it. Love it. Oh my gosh. This has been so much fun talking to you. So
I
much
enjoyed
fun.
it.
Yeah, I really did too. Wow. I gotta have you back on. Back on. So
you need the time and place, and I will be here with bells on.
perfect. Me too. All right. Awesome.
Sweet.
Well, Ryan, I want to tell you, thank you so much from me and my buddy Dirty over there. You've been so much fun to talk to and taught us a lot of stuff tonight that I didn't know. And I love learning. I love learning new stuff. So
That's the best part, man.
hell yeah, it really is. It really is.
I'll have books coming out, man. I got my Wendigo book that I'm hoping to finish very soon. I'll be writing a book on the Skinwalkers.
Yeah.
And then somebody twisted my arm where I have to write separate books on all the indigenous tribes and their folklore. So I'm going to have a
That's
whole
cool.
slew of books coming out about that. So
are any of them out yet, or are you still working on those?
not yet.
Okay.
I'm still
All
working
right.
on them. I'm hoping Wendigo will be out by maybe January. I was hoping by this month, but it didn't work out that way. So maybe January or February.
Okay. All right. So is there anything else you want to promote while you're on before we go besides the books or?
You can catch me on YouTube. I have my own podcast called Let the Monsters In with Ryan Tremblay.
Hell yeah.
So I'll be covering different indigenous folklore over there. We just covered the Uktana, which is a horned sea serpent. And this Friday, we're covering Jinoskwa, the Stonish giants.
Oh my gosh. Dude. I think I just found my favorite new podcast. Not mine.
Stop by.
Dude, I'm going to have to.
Awesome.
I don't get a lot of time to listen to them anymore, but dude, I'm going to definitely check that out. That is because I like stuff that's outside the box, you know?
Yeah, that's what I try to do too. Is like I don't want to cover something that people are already covering so much because
Correct.
it's boring.
Yeah.
After a while,
yeah.
it's just progress. But if you're covering more obscure things, it's more interesting, you know. And
Man,
in a
yeah.
way, like we just did here tonight. Everything comes full circle.
Yeah. Well, everybody out there in Cryptid Land, go check this guy out. Get his books when they come out. Go check out his podcast. Man, I know I'm gonna. And from me and Dirty,
Keep it creepy.
Yeah, out in the woods where the shadows creep. I'm trying to find the legend that the people keep. Bigfoot's the name, got a story to tell. Footprints in the mud, can't you hear the bell? Whispers in the night, can you feel that chill? Bigfoot on the run, he's a legend, keep it real. Bigfoot, yeah, he's the talk of the town. Creeping through the trees, never wearing a frown. Legend of the forest, he's got a big stride. As the trap beats thump, you know he's got pride. Like I'm on a quest, searching for the homie, you know he's the best. Got my camera ready, heightened senses on blast. Snap a shot of Sasquatch, legend unsurpassed. Eyes in the dark, you can't catch what you can't see. King of the woods, living wild and free. Bigfoot, yeah, he's the talk of the town. Creeping through the trees, never wearing a frown. Legend of the forest, he's got a big stride. As the trap beats thump, you know he's got pride.